And we're going to go straight away to James, who is in Earl's Court. James.
And he's just dropped off. It's Mr. Mayor, I do apologise. So let me put in...
What do you mean he's
Well, the line is gone.
Already?
The line...
That's outrageous.
That was your intro. So I'm going to very rudely write over. It's Marie and Putney. You're through to the London Meg.
Come on,
Marie, go ahead.
Marie and Putney.
Hello there.
Good morning.
Yes, Boris, I wonder if you can help me with something.
Yeah,
it's really a travel question,
Yes.
and I suppose there are two parts to it.
Right.
First of all, how well do you think you've dealt with the whole crisis on the tube, the continual strikes that we've had, the discontent that they've clearly expressed about?
Go on. Well, on the tube, if you're asking about the tube generally, Marie, I would say
we'll bring you back for your second point.
I'll just be trying to get the ball back over there quickly. I think the tube generally has seen massive improvements. I think most Londoners would admit that when you go on the tube today, it is very different from what it was like 8 years ago. Delays are well down. We've got huge numbers of air-conditioned trains. But on the strikes, Marie, I've got to be fair. And one of the reasons we've had those improvements is we have been able to modernise and to take the tube forward. So we've gone forward with automation of ticket offices. We're going forward with driverless trains. And yes, I want to see a night tube. We've had a tube for 150 years.
I remind you of Marie's question. How do you think you've handled the current tube dispute? Was the actual question.
Well, I think it's gone as well as we could conceivably have hoped, given the obduracy.
So you've had industrial action and you've postponed the introduction. That's gone well, has it? What would have been a bad scenario?
I've never said that I'm fixated on any particular date, except I want it in this autumn. I was very glad.
September.
I was very glad that the
so it's gone as well. Your expression, it's gone as well as it could have done with industrial action.
Sorry, hang on. It's gone as well as it could have done, given the obduracy of the union leadership. And ASLEF, as you know, didn't even threaten to strike last time, but we had threats to strike from the RMT and others. And what they need to do, Nick, is they need to put this offer to their members. And I say this, I don't believe in a macho approach to this. I just think people need to look at the detail of what we are offering our workforce. It is a fantastic deal, Marie.
Probably won't come back to ring me back for that, so I don't think he'll bother.
Say again.
Say again, Marie. Marie,
you're
on the radio.
We will have new payments for train operators, new payments for people working.
I don't agree with Boris. That's what I'd like to say.
Go ahead, talk to Boris. Go ahead.
I remember Boris saying on the television about a week and a half ago, I hope he remembers this, that he doesn't give a monkey's. He doesn't give a monkey's when it starts. Those were his words, which I thought was very flippant.
No, I didn't say that. I don't
give a monkey's. Your exact words were, I do not give a monkey's when it starts. Well, very flippant.
No,
actually, your words are, can I just say to you, your words clearly show to me that you've done absolutely nothing to help this, have you? You haven't done anything. You haven't done any negotiation.
No, Marie, let's address that one.
Marie, I'm not cutting you off, but we must let the mayor respond.
If I may, Marie, can I address that point? Because a lot of people do reasonably raise that, and they say, why don't you roll up your sleeves and get down and talk to the trades unions? Well, the reason for that is a very good one. It's the reason Ken Livingstone never did it himself. He had one conversation with Bob Croach, ended in an absolute slanging match, and the guy was chucked out of his office. So it is pointless. And what it does, Marie, is it totally destroys the negotiating mandate and the authority of my staff of TfL, whose job it is actually to do this deal. And it's quite interesting, Marie, that people say, well, I should be in the talks. Actually, the union leaders themselves aren't in the talks. That's not how it works. These are very technical issues that they're trying to resolve about rosters, about working time. And I have to say that what's happened so far is really that the union leadership has used this as an opportunity to make a sort of political point. I think what's really happening, Marie, is that the union leadership, particularly the RMT, feel that the country is being gripped by a kind of Corbyn mania. They feel that everybody's going suddenly to the left, and this is their great opportunity to make a point to the awful Tory government that they don't accept trade union reform, they don't want
Why did you
automation.
yield over the deadline?
And
why did you yield over the September deadline?
They won't even put the deal to their people. Now, on the date of the start of the night tube, as I said just now, we've had a tube service for 150 years.
Yes.
We're going to bring in a night tube this autumn. It is now, I think...
What do you class as autumn?
It is now the 1st of September.
When does autumn end in your book?
The autumn is upon us, Nick. It is not yet.
Season of mist.
So
when does the season of mist and mellow frivolous end?
Autumn has come. It is not yet
December the 1st. So between now and December the 1st.
It is not yet.
All right, we'll do it another way. Can we get the official... I don't know the official... One quick response, Marie. You've got one last line to the mayor, then we must move on. Quick response.
Come on.
Well, do you know what? I'd love to just quickly ask him about my second point very briefly.
Yes, of
because
course.
really, I think from his response, he accepts he hasn't done anything.
Well, that's completely untrue.
I'd like to know when he's going to put top-up machines at bus stops so we can all top up our Oyster cards. We don't know how much we've got left on our Oyster cards, and it's very irritating walking up the road looking for a...
Well, Marie, that's the kind... Can I just make a point?
That's a very good point.
That's the kind of thing that we could put in if we were able to save money by not agreeing to crazy demands such as those the RMT have made, which would put up fares for people like yourself by about 6%. That is what we're dealing with. I want to make that kind of investment. Of course I do, Marie, but it is vital, first of all, to modernise the tube, to get in the night tube, and the most important thing of all is for the union leadership to put this superb deal to their members.
Thank you, Marie. As you talk about fares, you'll be aware of what Dame Tessa Jowell, I think now Lady Tessa Jowell, who's obviously a possible contender to run the London mayoralty, has said how London has the most expensive transport fares in the world. 3 times the equivalent in New York, zones 1 to 6, 4 times more than in Paris. Why?
Well, we've had to have massive investment in our system. I mentioned right at the beginning that delays have come down just in my first term. Delays on the tube came down by about 40%. They're now down by about a further 30 or 40%. That's a huge improvement in the service.
Well, how much is the pay-as-you-go daily cap from zones 1 to 6?
We have had to listen. If you want to ask me
how much is a pay-as-you-go daily cap from zone 1 to 6?
I'll be very happy to give you all.
You don't know.
All if you want details.
What's the daily cap? What can it not go above?
Of our pricing system. I'm very happy to go over to.
Is it £10? Is it £11? Is it £12? What is it?
Listen, the single fare or the Oyster. The daily cap is £6.40 peak and off peak. In zones 1 to 2,
1 to 6.
If in zones 1 to 6, it's £5.10 single fare. Peak 3 off peak, it's £3.10.
Well, you're reading from the piece of paper now, but you didn't know.
Well, if you want me to recite all our fares,
well done. You got there.
I'm very happy to do so.
Tessa Jowell says they need to be frozen. She's right, isn't she?
No. Well, I think Tessa is right in the sense that we have frozen the fares at RPI for the last 2 years, and that's what we're going to continue to do. What you can't do is cut the fares
so there's no increases next year.
As the previous. They'll go up by RPI.
Right.
What you can't do, which is entirely reasonable, you've got to keep investing in infrastructure, Nick. And Marie's point. Marie comes on and everybody, there you go. I get berated about fares, but people want investment. They want a better service. Sure. They want to be able to get in a timely way to their place of work. We have a superb network. The London Tube is vastly better than it was when I inherited it. I'm very, very proud of what we're doing. Okay. We're going to go forward with new lines, with an extension of the Northern Line, and with further improvements of the tube. And we will go forward with driverless trains.
And we must go forward with
Joy.
Yes.
In Chingford.
Go ahead, Joy.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Good morning, Boris.
Good morning.
Boris, all right, the question I'm about to put to you, I would appreciate if you answer me honestly. I'm not flapping around, please. Now, in regards to the laws.
The laws?
Please try and justify or explain to anyone listening right now.
House of Lords.
The House of Lords?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry, forgive me.
We're being told, just a minute, if we're being lectured by Judge Osborne or the Conservative Party that we're in a state of austerity, so there's cuts everywhere, severe cuts. No wage increases for those individuals who deserve it the most, and I mean the manual workers.
So what is your question, Joy?
Well, my question is this. How can you justify paying each individual £300 a day
not a week. A lot of people do not earn £200 a week.
Right.
So
Well, listen, Joy,
The House of Lords reform. Where does Boris Johnson stand on this?
I think the whole thing has got completely out of control, Joy, and I have to say I'm with you. And I think, well, in the sense that I think 843 members,
866 now, second highest, second chamber to China.
You know, it's something radical needs to happen there. It's not something I have to say that I've looked at for a long time. But I would think.
What do you mean by something radical?
I think the right. I mean, in the sense of pruning.
Right.
Or maybe
How do you prune?
You got to. Well, I think they had a kind of voluntary euthanasia plan, didn't they, or a voluntary sort of exit plan, a sort of a dignitas approach to the laws. Wasn't they? You were told that you could step down, and I think some of them exercise that option. There are a great many of these geezers and women who don't actually do anything very much at all. They
take the money.
They take the money and they don't do much. And it seems to me we should make them an offer they can't refuse. You know, if they
Don Corleone.
If they don't turn up, if they're not really interested, they're just interested in the glory of being a member of the House of Lords. And I think stuff that. That's absolutely absurd. We probably need about 400 legislators to scrutinise bills, to amend them and to improve them.
So effectively half.
You don't need all these people. They should be.
So why did Mr. Cameron pour so many in last month?
Quietly. Well, hey, look, there's one of the political difficulties that Dave faces is clearly that in the House of Lords, after a long period of Labour rule, I think there's now a pretty big anti-Tory majority.
This is like World War One. We'll just have more soldiers fight more soldiers.
I'm afraid that's what we've got to, which is
a war of attrition.
Itself absurd, and the government's got to be able to get its business through. It'd be completely undemocratic if the unelected House of Lords were able to block it. I think it's really the only option the Prime Minister has. I think he's got, in the current circumstances, he's doing the only thing he really can do, and I totally defend and support him on that. But this thing needs reform. Then we go to Peter.
Joy, thank you.
Thanks, Joy. We go to Peter in West Hampstead.
Yeah, hello, Boris.
Good morning, sir.
Because it costs so much carbon dioxide to produce a car, instead of banning all the old taxis, why not tell them to take out the engine, gearbox, transmission, not the transmission, radiator and so on, put in an electric motor and put in batteries, and Bob's your uncle?
Well, actually, Peter, it's a fascinating question, because we are, as you know, by 2018, we're moving to a ultra-low emission standard for taxis and all new vehicles.
You don't need new taxis. You just need new engines.
Well, exactly, and I think your point will be heard by drivers and by the manufacturers. And you know, there's no reason at all why you shouldn't take out the drivetrain, but take out the engine and put in. You could use the old chassis. You could use the. I see no reason why you shouldn't be able to use the old bodywork. So I think you may well be onto something.
All right. But Peter, thank you. While we're on the subject of zones and air quality, what is to be made of the fact that these new buses that you've introduced, these route master buses,
yes,
the new ones, emit more harmful particles than the buses they were designed to replace?
That's not true.
It is. Old buses produce 30,212. Your new route master produced 52,648. Tests conducted by LBC using a nanotracer.
By LBC.
Yes, you might have heard of it.
That well-known air quality monitoring unit.
Held to the highest European standards. We used a nanotracer PNT 1000 to carry out the tests, and we spoke to various others who supported LBC's findings. The buses you've put on the road emit more diesel particles.
They are the cleanest, greenest bus of their type in the world.
Yes,
and I will be very happy to take away your findings and get TfL to explain them to me. And if I'm unsatisfied with what they say, then obviously I will.
But the truth of the matter is, because they weren't actually designed to operate in a city such as London, and they're having to use the diesel more because they can't use the green engine because they don't have a long enough run, which is the design of the city. That's not your fault, but you put the wrong engines in.
No, that's not true. No, they are. I'm told they're working well, and sometimes there's a malfunction. That there has been a malfunction.
But the diesel is used more than was initially anticipated.
Which has meant that the electric motor hasn't kicked in as much as we would like.
I
mean, you're definitely onto something. Yeah. But I am told that it's been fixed and it's working well. However, I'm going to go back to TfL with those figures. But before I do that, we're going to go to David in Enfield.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Boris. How are you?
Sir, very, very well.
Yeah, my question regards the European Union. Angela Merkel, who I regard as the de facto president of Europe, has repeatedly said along with the support of the other 27 presidents, that the principle of free movement of labour within the European Union is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental principle of the Union. So my question is if this can't be changed by David Cameron, would you personally vote yes or no to stay in the European Union?
Sorry, what is this? I missed the first half of your question. If this can't be changed, did you say?
Yes, to combat what's known as the migrant crisis.
Well, I think there are several things that I think we need change. The first is you can't have people coming and just picking up benefits without, with barely any kind of delay. That's absurd. And we have a different system of benefits in Britain from other European countries. You have a non-contributory system. You just get it as a result of being here. And it's blatantly absurd for people just to arrive in the UK and after a very short interval be able to claim benefits. So what the Prime Minister is going for, which is a long cooling off period, 4 years, or I think he's arguing for that, I would strongly support. I think it's quite interesting, actually, that on Sunday, the Home Secretary, Theresa, went further, and I don't know if you spotted this, David, but she said that she would like a new rule so that you can't, even if you're an EU citizen, you can't come to this country unless you actually have a job lined up.
But the Europe won't allow that, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I thought it was very interesting that she advocated that.
Well, it's like saying we're going to end poverty next Thursday. Where does it end?
Why? The biggest...
Because she can't do it. It's like Dave, as you call him. I know him as the Prime Minister, but you refer to him as Dave.
Well, I thought
we will limit net migration to the tens of thousands. He can't. He can't even make all these promises. But Theresa, as you now call her, which is very interesting, I'm glad to see the froideur has gone, has made this idea, which is absolutely... There was never any froideur?
Now listen, there's no point, David, in being minimalist about this. There's an opportunity now to get some change. What Angela Merkel also said, and she said it yesterday, was that unless we sort this immigration problem out, we're going to have to get rid of the Schengen Agreement.
And do you agree with that, Mr. Mayor?
And I think we are getting to the stage where individual countries, the backlash against, and it's not just the numbers. What I think people object to is the sense that there is no political control, that governments cannot deliver that thing that they promise to their electorate, that they say they can deliver, which is a restriction on numbers. That infuriates people.
David,
I think there's as much chance of the other 27 member states agreeing to restrict the freedom of movement of labour as there is that I have got of winning the Grand National, and I can't even ride a horse.
As you were winning the Grand National?
Yes, or as Theresa May would, without a horse.
My question remains, if this can't be negotiated, if they're intransigent on this principle, would you vote yes or no in the European referendum?
Well, David, I'm going to tell you, I have strong confidence that the Prime Minister can achieve the reforms he's set out. Particularly.
All right, let's try this another way. Is there a set of circumstances by which you could see yourself voting no in the referendum?
Look, I think. Yes, of course. I think it is important.
There are. You could vote to get out.
Of course. I think it is important.
So what's the deal breaker?
Well, I think that we've got to hold out. We've got to hang very tough. And I think I looked at the headlines this morning about the possibility of Britain dropping its insistence on changes to employment law, and I thought that was very disappointing. I think we need to move forward on that. I think one of the reasons we've got low growth in Europe is not just the travails of the Eurozone, but also because we got too much regulation, too much stuff coming from Brussels, too many laws that are promulgated by Brussels that make it hard for business. And unless I think we need to weigh in on all that stuff, all that social chapter stuff. And I've got every confidence the Prime Minister will do that.
All right, we move on to other calls. David, thank you. Where do we go now, Mr. Mayor?
I think we go to Mark in Tilbury.
Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning. What is, Boris? I just wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the film Quadrophenia?
To my shame, I've not. I saw the Who in concert the other day, but I've never seen Quadrophenia. I'm ashamed to say.
The point is, you've got this little Vespa with about 6 million mirrors on it.
Oh yeah.
And my question to you is, now with this cycle regulation that's coming today, you've now got trucks in with 6 sets of mirrors on their vehicle, 6, plus a reverse camera, but the driver's only got one pair of eyes.
When you say 6 sets of mirrors, do you mean 3 on each side, or do you actually mean a total of 12 mirrors, Mark?
No, I mean what you've got on the driver's side, you've got your normal mirror plus your wide angle.
Yeah.
On the near side, you've got your normal mirror plus your wide angle.
I see.
Right. Well, look, I mean,
side, and over the front, you've got a front
6 mirrors in total.
Mirror, so you can see the cyclist.
Well, okay.
What point is the cyclist going to take any responsibility for their stuff?
This is the Safer Lorry scheme brought in today, Mr. Mayor.
Well, Mark, I completely understand where you're coming from. On the other hand, I totally defend this is a wonderful scheme. I promised this would come in September, and we are bringing it in today, and I'm afraid we've already stopped some vehicles that aren't properly equipped. They've got to have sidebars, they've got to have the added wing mirrors to give
But you heard Mark's final point.
And
responsibility for the cyclist.
Yes, of course, cyclists must take
what are you doing about that?
Well, we've had a massive operation called Operation Safeway. We've stopped about 14,000 people, fined many. I get grief. I'm waiting at traffic lights with my fellow cyclists, and they yell at me about this thing because they're getting fined for jumping the lights. Well, I think quite right. Good for the police for doing what they are doing. But lorries...
What on earth? Where is the mentality that you get yelled at for being done?
Hang on, lorries must be safer. Lorries must be safer. I don't mind being shouted at. That's my job.
Yeah.
Lorries must be...
I'm glad you agree. There's got to be some reason for having you.
Lorries must be safer, and we calculate that this safer lorry scheme that we're bringing in would have saved about 12 deaths or serious injuries over the last 5 years.
But the point Mark is making is a fair one.
That's a very important consideration. Everybody feels, and I think lorry drivers themselves feel this, that it's unfair on them to be in this environment where, frankly, they cannot see the cyclists as well as they need to.
Well, Mark, do you do it for a living, Mark?
No, I don't. I actually supply, Nick, to the transport industry.
I see.
And it's just over the years that, the LEZ was the responsibility of the truck driver. The cyclist now is and the mayor just said it's a wonderful scheme. It's wonderful to him because he's not footing the bill. But actually, if you sat inside a driver's cab, you've got 6 sets of mirrors plus a reverse camera, and you've got one pair of eyes. Surely you have created a blind spot. Can you not see that?
No, we don't think so, at any rate. And our transport guys think that actually this will make the lorries safer. But we are going forward as well.
That's rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
Well, as I say, they think that this would have saved about a dozen lives, or saved a dozen lives and serious injuries over the last 5 years. That's a very serious consideration. We've got people very anxious about deaths of cyclists, but also we've got lorry drivers who are traumatised, Mark, absolutely traumatised by what happens when they run over a cyclist. And these are people sometimes who simply didn't see them. And they didn't see them because of the bad design of their cabs. And if we can do something to sort that out, Mark, I have to say, I think it's the right thing to do. And what we are also doing is we are going to bring in measures so that you lower the windows, Mark, on the doors, so that actually you can see out more easily. And Mark, if that saves lives of cyclists, if that gives drivers of trucks more confidence, I think that will be a great thing, I have to tell you.
More broadly on the subject of cyclists and the cycle superhighway, where are we now with forcing cyclists to use it upon completion?
Well, we're still considering that. I haven't gotten any further forward on... Still
considering it?
Look, I think...
This is 3 months.
Well, the cycle superhighway won't actually be opened until the spring.
But the Londoners listening now, if they could at least think, well, thank God, when we've lost most of our road on this lunatic, well, that's slightly loading it. When it's opened, at least every cycle will be on the cycle superhighway. Look, they won't.
Put it this way, they'd be nutty not to.
No, I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor.
And my last conversations with TfL about this, which were quite recent, were that I was disposed towards insisting that cyclists do use those lanes. But I don't want... You can't impose that everywhere, because there will be places where cyclists...
So a little old lady can just pootle down the embankment with half of London behind her?
No, on a bicycle, you mean?
Yes.
I think she should be in the cycle.
No, I don't know what she should, but she could.
we haven't come forward with the.
No, you haven't moved forward at all. I've been talking about this for 3 months.
Well, I'm not.
Why
gonna,
don't you
I'm not
bang
gonna
a desk and get it done?
We haven't even built the thing yet. It's a totally absurd question. You can do better than this. We're looking. We're considering. I think it would be. We're building the hamster wheel for the hamster. The hamster. If there's some way of compelling the hamster to use the hamster wheel,
bloody expensive hamster wheel.
It is.
So someone who was to say,
put it another way, that's the wrong analogy.
If
it's
someone
a
was to say,
fantastic thing for this city. It's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do.
With white van man resurgent.
It is the right thing to do.
Business is doing brilliantly. This city going gangbusters. Meanwhile, try and get your plumber from one side of town to the other.
Let me tell you, you talk about white vans. It's a very good point. White vans, the reason we've got massive expansion in white vans is because of internet shopping. It's going to go up. We think there's going to be a 20% increase in in white vans on the streets of London by 2031.
How much?
20%. And we need to do something.
Where are they going to go?
Well, we need to be marshalling freight and making sure that we get freight off the roads in the peak. And also,
where are you going to put it?
We need to have hubs. You need to be bringing it in and then distributing it in a more rational way.
What is a more rational way?
Like we did during the Olympics, we were able to restrict the volumes of freight on the roads by better marshalling and so on. But also, I'm afraid that in the next 20 years, this city is going to have to look at giving further road space. Okay, now the way to do that,
there's none left.
The way to do there is. You build tunnels.
Oh, no, I agree with that.
You build tunnels. And actually, I'm seeing a paper this morning from TfL, which I was reading last night. It's fantastic ideas for tolled tunnels running east-west, north and south of the
Brilliant.
Very, very
excellent.
And
let's get digging.
And they would take 15% of the traffic out of London's roads. 15%. Just those two tunnels. Now, there will be lots of eco-nuts who say, oh, no, you shouldn't do anything to appease the motorist, damn all cars, damn all lorries. That's wrong. As you say, we have a car-based economy. I'm afraid, even though we put in the best transport system, the best mass transit system in the world, we have an economy that depends on the motor vehicle. We have to supply the road space. But we've also got to supply the mass transit. And Crossrail 2 is fundamental. There's some ridiculous paper this morning. Sorry to rabbit on, but there's a ridiculous paper this morning. Sorry.
God. I wish I'd had a sandwich halfway through.
Anyway, there's a ridiculous paper this morning by some think tank saying
memorial lecture. This one.
Give me another
right. Just
question.
lastly on this, if someone was to say about you talked about cyclists jumping the red light. Yeah. If someone was to say cyclists jumping red lights are not the problem, they're the victims, how would you respond to that?
I'd say, give me a break. I was so angry this morning. I saw a cyclist just waft through. We were all stationary at the lights, and she just wafted through. And I shouted after, but what good does it do?
But they're not the problem, they're the victim, is what people are saying.
Well, that's complete nonsense. They are not.
Do you know who said that?
I have no idea who said
Andrew Gilligan.
Well,
would you now like to tell everybody what Andrew Gilligan does?
I'm very, very surprised.
Well, that's what Twitter is saying, he said.
We're
trying to find
surprised.
Out. But if Andrew has said that...
Well, let's see. It may turn out to be one of
the mayor's cycling
He is London's cycling commissioner. And if he said
and that's on Twitter, I hasten to add. So there's a big caveat the size of a water cannon, but we're trying to find out whether that's...
Not as big as a water cannon.
No, nothing's as big as... Or as useful, many would say. Let's get one in before the news.
We get a Lewis in Victoria, please.
Lewis, go ahead. Your question, if you would, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, morning, Boris. Morning.
It's
Lewis Norton from the RMT London Taxi Drivers Branch.
Oh, superb.
Yes, exactly, Boris. I know you sort of neglect to meet us, so I thought I'd get you on the phone.
Well, on the contrary.
Quick question to you, Boris, is on your State of London debate, you cited that traffic congestion in the city was contributing factor was down to the rise in private hire numbers.
Yes, that's true.
You said it's attributed because you've got the vehicles driving around looking for fares.
That is definitely a factor, Lewis. That's correct.
That's right, Boris. So the Mayor of London has acknowledged that private hire drivers are driving around looking for a fare. That's applying for hire, and only licensed taxi drivers can do that.
Yes.
So have you acknowledged that private hire vehicles, either I'm driving for Uber or break them and applying for hire?
Lewis, yes. Can I make a couple of points about this? Because what you're talking about is very important. And we've asked the police to have a big operation on this. I don't think people realise that it is illegal for private hire vehicles to apply the streets in the way that you're describing. I think sometimes the police don't realise it's something they need to be cracking down on. So I've asked Bernard Hogenhauer to have a look at this.
Teresa,
and yeah, well, So Sir Bernard Hogan-Howe, I got his honorific in there. Sir Bernard Hogan-Howe, to think about the something we could do to crack down on this. As you know, Lewis, we've doubled the size of the private hire enforcement teams in TfL. I think we've now got about 80 people working on this, trying to crack down on these guys. But the other point is that they add, you're completely right, is they add to congestion, and they're Uber.
That way, Boris. Stop allowing Uber to operate that way, because they're breaking the law. They're circumventing carrying legislation. Now, I know we're in dispute.
Yeah, where are we with this court process and Uber? Just quickly, Mr. because we must get to the news in a minute.
I'm sorry. Well, what's happening at the moment is that the case about the taxi meter is still grinding its way through the courts. That's to establish whether or not this thing is or is not a taxi meter. As you know, no other city has been able to throw it out on those grounds, but we're hopeful they will. Separately, the GMB union, not the RMT, is pursuing a case about whether or not Uber drivers are themselves employees, and therefore whether Uber is liable for all sorts of benefits and so on.
There we must leave it.
But what we need to do is restrict the numbers coming onto the streets.
All right. We must leave it just to take a brief bit of news. Coming up after the news, you'll find out just how often London Mayor Boris Johnson has his hair cut. You're listening to LBC. All right, 9:35, back for Ask Boris. Just before we move on, Mr. Mayor, courtesy of the Sun newspaper.
I was just trying to
courtesy of the Sun newspaper, please go to lbc.co.uk.
I think we need to go to David's.
Right, I've switched the line off, nearly fell off there. Courtesy of the Sun newspaper, we now have the secrets behind your hairdo. Yeah. And my listeners, I think, will be staggered to even know that it is actually cut, but it's cut at a Turkish barber shop that you went into. It's called the Bay Room in the Angel area of North London, and you go every 3 weeks. Every 3 weeks. Here's a little of what you can see on lbc.co.uk, courtesy of the Sun.
This is Boris Johnson here. I just wanted you to know I had a fantastic treatment here, a haircut, barber treatment here at the Bay Room barbershop in Goswell Road, and I thoroughly recommend it.
You have a £15 trim, a head massage, a hot towel, a shave, and a Turkish beer. Thanks to Sevdet Isaac. You have your hair done. Jevdet, my apologies. You have your hair done more than Mariah Carey.
Well, I'm afraid that there are certain statistics in that report that I would dispute.
Right, is it £15?
God, it's about that.
Do you have a hot towel? Do you have a shave?
No.
Do you have a head massage?
No.
Do you have a Turkish beer?
Yes.
Do you go every 2 to 3 weeks?
No, that's the thing I'm totally puzzled by, because I should do.
That hair.
I should do.
I mean, I didn't even, as David Letterman once said to you, do you actually get it cut?
No, he's very good. Jevded's a top bloke, but I feel very sorry for him now. He's going to be, the world's going to be. Anyway, there you go. The Sun. You never underestimate the power of the Sun journalists. There you go. They've got me.
How many times a year do you have your hair?
I have no idea, but it's certainly not.
Well, you must have a rough idea.
Well, no, I don't, frankly.
Well, think.
Why?
Every couple of months?
Honestly, I wouldn't like to guess. I mean, it's
not a state secret.
But I haven't got the faintest idea. When it gets so long, I cannot see out it anymore. It's time to go and have a cut. Anyway, come on. Give me
one last text. Dave's after this. Rachel in Bexley. He'll defer to a woman. Rachel in Bexley has emailed. Very interesting to hear what you say about the House of Lords. Can you say categorically you would refuse any peership?
Listen, I think the chances of...
No, never mind the chances. Are you saying you would never sit in the House of Lords?
I certainly don't think it'd be right to sit in the House of Lords as it is currently constituted. And my job... where's our friend from? From
Bexley. Rachel
in Bexley. My job is to be Mayor of London, which is...
but in years to come, after you've done whatever you've done, written yet another book, bored everyone to death about Shakespeare, would you then accept Sir Boris, Lord Johnson of Islington?
I think it highly unlikely that any such preferment would be offered me.
But if
what I want to do is get on with my job and actually and to represent people of Uxbridge and South Ruislip and to represent people of London.
Let's talk to our next caller, Mr. Mayor.
David in Sidcup, please.
Oh, good morning. I understand information, that's what I heard on LBC, because I get all my information from LBC.
Oh, dear.
Quite right.
Because it's so truthful. I understand if when the true strike is over and the trains are running, you're going to cut 17 routes on the night buses.
Dave, what we will do is we will make sure that the night buses continue to provide a fantastic service, but we will obviously be revising the night bus timetables to take account of the fact that we're running night tubes. I mean, if you're going to run night tubes over huge chunks of the network, you need to have night buses.
So how many night buses will go?
What night buses will... I don't recognise the figure that Dave's given, but...
I hear that. How many?
I can't give you a figure. What we will do is
you
make
don't know
sure...
how many bus services you're going to cut?
We won't be cutting the night buses.
Oh, you won't? They'll all survive?
And we will make sure that we pick up people from the tube stations that are continuing to run 24 hours. So there's no... at the moment, the night bus service is configured to take out the fact that there's no night tube. Obviously, if you've got people capable of using the tube, arriving at a certain destination and hoping to find a bus, you better have a bus going from there. So we're looking at ways of reforming.
So will any night buses go?
They will run the whole time, yes.
Yeah, no, but any routes?
I can't give you
Dave,
now...
Dave, come back. Can you make sense of what he's saying?
Not a lot. I don't often think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, no. Dave, it sounds to me like you're one of those chaps you're probably opposed to the night tube itself, Dave.
No, he just wants to know what's happening to his night bus.
Dave, let me tell you, which night bus are you worried about in particular, Dave?
You realise
which one are you particularly worried about?
It's a Sidcup and Kent area which hasn't got the tube.
Yes.
Okay, and you're worried there's going to be a cut to night buses in the Sidcup area. Do you think is that right?
Well, they haven't got a tube to get down there, have they?
Yeah, no. But I want to check that there is going to be a night bus running to the Sidcup area. Which night bus are you particularly worried about, Dave?
I don't particularly know the numbers. I don't use them.
Oh, right.
Okay, but you just want to know. All right.
Okay. Well, let me. If there is one that you are worried about, then please get in touch with the show, and we'll try and make sure that that you get the information about when it's running. But
let's go
the intention is to run them in concert with the expanded tube network. That's sort of.
Got another email question. This is Ken in Dartford. Now that Boris Johnson has taken all the staff away from underground stations, if you've got a problem and you've been overcharged on your Oyster card, where are you meant to go?
Well, we refund people automatically on their Oyster cards. I think through the Oyster card.
Well, how do they know? Because in the old days,
you can go online. And
what if you haven't got a computer?
Well,
it's not a crime not to have a computer. If you haven't got a
computer, there are many members of staff at our stations, and there are no station under any of these.
But he or she's at the barrier. In the old, even I've done this. I've been overcharged by my Oyster, and I've wandered into Leicester Square, and a very helpful chap has.
That's right.
Well, they're not there anymore.
No, they are, but they're not. They're just not behind the.
Yeah, but they can't then go behind the glass.
No, but what they can do, they can use the machine to reimburse you, and they have
what
handheld.
Machine?
They can use the ticket machine, or they can use their handheld devices to make sure that you are properly reimbursed. So my advice to Ken would be to just go to a member of staff and they will sort you out.
And they'll do that?
Yeah, they will. They certainly will.
Okay. All right. We move on to other callers. Where are we going now?
Go to Barry in Camden.
Hello, Boris. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
What I would like to know is, with the embankment and this new bus and this new cycle lane being installed, and with all this new safety stuff being put onto the actual lorry, will it still enable it? Will it be easier to see any MPs that are giving illegal backies on their bikes?
It will be. Yes, it will.
This refers to you, Mr. Mayor. Do you want to explain to my listeners?
Thank you, Barry, for that embarrassingly personal question.
Yeah.
I suppose it will be. I have to say, I had no idea that it was an infringement. I think they had to dig out a fairly old statute.
This was the fact that is it known as a backie? You had your wife sort of effectively clinging on to you.
In breach of. But what I hope you talk about MPs on bicycles. One thing I do think is absurd, Barry, is the way we still have so many members of Parliament and ministers and what have you going around in limos, and not just ministers, by the way, but senior civil servants, all these people, huge numbers of people going around in cars being driven when, quite frankly, they could be on public transport or indeed on bicycles and reducing the congestion that we're talking about.
Interesting you talk about driving. You were driving a little while ago and you chose not to wear your seatbelt. Did you not know that was the law?
Well, I generally, and of course I buckle up.
Well, you didn't. There's a picture of it.
Well,
you might just about get away an excuse with the backy.
It must have been.
But you just chose not to put your seatbelt on.
I do not recollect the moment in question. I must say it's a rare aberration. It must have been an instant Must be. I don't remember it. But there you go. You got a picture of everything this morning. You got a picture of him have a haircut. That's what's gone wrong with it. Everything you do. Everything you do is.
I also got a picture of you asleep on an EasyJet. You seem to be travelling with Rebecca Brooks in front of you. What is she going on?
I'm closely studying. I'm closely studying details of traffic management plans, which I've balanced on my stomach. As you can see,
you're fast asleep.
I'm closely.
Can we put that picture on LBC? We move on to other.
Is there any way that people could stop? Can we go to Darren in Orpington, please?
Darren, you're on the radio.
Darren, sir.
Good morning, brother.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Notting Hill Carnival.
Yes, sir.
How did it manage to carry on year after year? If there was a football team that had so much trouble every time it played, as much as the Carnival does every time it happens, I'm sure that football team would be out of the league, whatever league it might be in, and completely out of the game and banned and only been allowed to play within closed doors, no public. How does the Nottingham Carnival get away with it? People hurt, stabbed.
Well, let's give some context to this. The Met are reporting that one of their officers was stabbed and another was bitten during this year's Notting Hill Carnival, plus 314 people were arrested over the carnival, and that is a rise on last year. Now there are suggestions the carnival should possibly be moved to a new location. Mr. Mayor?
Well, Darren, I mean, look, it's a fair question, and we always think about this. The carnival is something that is organised independently of City Hall, as you may know. It has its own operation. We contribute towards the stewarding. The police provide about 6,500 officers, and in general they do. But if you're saying
say that again, Darren.
It must be a very big cost of policing.
The budget for the stewarding operation was 150,000. I can't give you the police budget, but it's something that the argument, Darren, basically is that it boosts London's economy. The carnival has been going on.
Well, you could put it in a park and it would still boost. You could put it in Hyde Park,
except that it wouldn't be the same. And
I think many residents would love to see it go, Mr. Mayor.
Of course they would, and I perfectly understand their feelings. But it is the biggest street festival in the world outside Rio de Janeiro. It's been going on for years. It's a great symbol of London's culture, and it generates a huge amount of revenue for the city.
Darren,
go on.
Darren, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, but to revert back to the same thing, if the same problems were going on at football matches or horse race meetings.
Yes.
They just wouldn't happen anymore.
Yes, if this was the London Marathon, for instance, I think you'd probably take a bit of a dim view on it, wouldn't you? But the reality is, for whatever reason, we seem to just put up with this each year, Mr. Mayor. Why might that be?
Well, we do so because basically it's a great cultural event for the.
So that's the price we pay. Police officers being bitten.
I'm not necessarily a massive supporter of the way it's organised, and we've had previous attempts to move it into Hyde Park. That's been bitterly resisted by all sorts of people, not least residents around that area.
It'd be a lot easier to police, I sense, in a park, wouldn't it?
It would, but it would effectively, we're told by people who care about it passionately, dedicate much of their lives to it, that it would be the end of the carnival. And
so we just put up with this crime fest each year.
Guys, that wouldn't be such a bad thing, really.
Darren, were you there yesterday, Darren?
I wasn't. I wouldn't want to go there because I don't want to get stabbed.
Have you ever been there?
Well, let's put this in context. Hold on. And Darren, you can't say. Of course, one stabbing is too many, but it's not as if there are multitudes of people this morning waking up with stab wounds, Darren.
Overall, I love music, and I love events and live music. Yeah.
Have you ever been to it, Darren?
I've never been there because
you should go.
You're probably right, but the overall perception of it from a lot of people. I wouldn't say everyone, because I can't generalise.
No.
From a lot of people, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be trouble.
Well, it's a fair comment. I think.
Well, listen. I've got to say, I hear what you say, and indeed there was some trouble last night, a little bit more than in previous years. It was nothing. It wasn't. Thankfully, it didn't get out of control. But 300 arrests is simply too many. I will be talking to police commissioner about it later on today.
I've got another picture of you here at an airport, and you're studying your mobile phone. Was it when you'd received a text from the Prime Minister telling you to effing shut up, otherwise the next PM will be Miliband.
Now, that is an interesting question, because I have studied my mobile. As you suggest, I don't know what I do on my mobile, but I cannot find any trace of this text. And
this was when you
cannot find any trace of this.
You compiled a list detailing all old Etonians who'd ended up at number 10. Why did you do that?
I cannot find any trace of this.
Let's do chronologically. It's often the best way to deal with tricky situations. Why did you ever compile a list in the first place?
I didn't compile any such list, but I think...
So you've never compiled a list detailing all the old Etonians who've ended up in number 10?
I think the peculiar thing...
Good Lord, for the first time you actually got some colour in your face. What have I touched on here?
No, I've been on... I'm ashamed to say I have briefly taken a holiday. I'm back there.
Good.
I'm back.
You deserve a holiday. Let's come back to compiling a list of the old Etonians who've ended up in... Why did you do that?
Look, there is a total mystery as far as I'm concerned about this text.
No. Let's just do the list. Why did you compile the list?
Which list? I haven't compiled any.
So you've never compiled a list of old Etonians who've ended up in number 10?
If you
don't recognise that,
if you can provide a list that I've compiled of
he said it written. Is it for your Telegraph column?
Look, matey, I'm in the dark about this one. I think what you need to do is you need to
talk to the Prime Minister, or Dave, as you know.
You need to apply to number 10 and find out exactly what they...
The next PM will be Miliband if you don't effing shut up, said the Prime Minister in a text.
Look, if there was such a text, it was not sent to me. Now, Clouseau... Clouseau,
did it go to one of your aides?
Clouseau... I urge Clouseau or Poirot, or however you style. So I think you need to find out.
Have you ever heard of this text prior to the publication of this new book, number 10, The Inside Story?
It was news to me. No, in fact.
So none of your aides ever got it? He didn't fire it off to the wrong person or anything like that?
Well...
Or your missus?
If there was such a text, it certainly wasn't sent to me or to any of my staff that I know of.
So it went to someone else, not poor old Dad.
No.
So who was the recipient?
I urge you. Listen, you're the journalist.
Help me a bit.
You're the
there
journalist.
Is a text.
Earn your crust.
Laughingly a journalist.
You're the journalist.
There was a text. We just don't know where it's gone.
Go and do your job. What you've got to do is can I just give you a tip? What you do is you ring up I think it's 930-4483 0207 930-4483 and you put through to the Downing Street press office, old man. Try that. Go on. Do it now.
And say, Dave, show
the listeners that you're actually worth your unbelievable salary and do some journalism. I don't know where that text came from, and it certainly did.
You want to talk about salaries? I tell you what. You want to talk about salaries? We'll talk about salaries. This is your predecessor.
It's becoming a joke. I mean, everyone down at City Hall off the record will tell you that basically he's devolved the job of being mayor to the deputies appointed. It is, I think, fundamentally wrong to get elected as mayor and then dump the work on other people while you go off promoting yourself.
Well, honestly, I'm very glad. I've got a fantastic team in City Hall, and we are getting on with our job, and we're delivering great.
So you've not devolved power.
We're delivering huge.
You have devolved power.
Look, we're delivering a fantastic agenda for change and improvement in London, and I'm very proud of what is going on. And by the way, I think when you look back and when in a few months' time, I think quite seriously, I will be very, very, very proud of the stuff that we have done collectively in City Hall. I'm not going to hide it from you. I've got a great team, and they do a wonderful job. We're
not because of time reasons, but I have now got what your London Cycling Commissioner said, and I quote: "Cyclists aren't the problem here. The fact is these gigantic vehicles are going through central London with, until we brought this in, mirrors that the drivers couldn't see from. That's the problem. The victims are not the problem." I'll read it again. Cyclists aren't the problem here. This is when he talks about going through red lights. Cyclists aren't the problem here. The fact is these gigantic vehicles...
Well, hang on. He's talking about the cycle. He's talking about the...
Lorries.
No. He's not talking about going through red lights there. He's talking about the new safer lorry scheme that we're bringing in.
But surely, and of course it's tragic that anyone loses their life, but if a cyclist who becomes a victim goes through the red lights, who do they look to but themselves, Mr. Mayor?
No, sorry. The quote that you just read out, he's talking about the need to bring in the safer lorry scheme and the extra mirrors. And that,
cyclists aren't the problem here, ... The victims are not the problem.
Well, I know.
If you go through a red light...
No, but why are you dragging in red lights? He's not mentioning red lights as far as I can see.
No, but he was responding to the question about cyclists who go through the red lights.
No, he's talking about the safer lorry scheme that we're bringing.
I put it to you that if a cyclist goes through a red light, you just want him or her to get through the other side. But of course, in essence...
No, I think the cyclists should not go through red lights, and that's why we brought in the Safeway scheme and have arrested substantial numbers. Anyway, I hope you still haven't made that call to find out who got that test.
Autumn ends on the 21st of December. So we will have the night tube service by the 21st of December.
You will have the night tube this autumn, and we go now to Stan.
Oh, okay, if you've got time, yeah. Have to be very quick.
Stan in Teddington. I think I've got to go now, haven't I? I've got to go.
I don't know, Stan, can you take a question in a sentence?
Okay, Boris. Simple. Will the new TfL commissioner be on the same absurd salary as Sir Peter Hendy?
Stan, I think that
£650,000.
I'm not going to make any comment about the package that we'll come up with for the new commissioner, whoever he or she may be. But I'd make a general point, which is that if you want very talented people to run your transport network, you have to pay what the market rate is. And if you look at the changes and improvements that we've seen in London transport over the last few years, the massive improvement in the tube, the huge investment program that's been going on. This is the biggest program of investment any city is running anywhere in
How
Europe.
Big is TfL?
We would be
the size of a behemoth.
You need to be paying people reasonable sums to attract their talents. Now, we've also done, Stan, is to reduce the number of directors. By about 25%. We've cut the number of people on sitting in that building. We've sold about 40 buildings.
How many did they have?
You've
sold 40. How many did they have?
Otherwise disposed of about 40.
Dear
I know and we've just got rid of Windsor House. We're getting rid of a huge. We are trimming that thing down, Stan.
All right, okay. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great to have you back after your very brief vacation and the best of endeavours. And remember, if you need to get a haircut, just like Boris's, you know exactly where to go. And if you go in every 2.5 or 3 weeks, you might actually
It was nothing like
you might actually see the Mayor having a Turkish head massage. What's that about, Mr. Mayor? The Mariah Carey of British politics leaves us in
And they are understandably furious because I think the thing is ridiculous, and it is
what exactly is ridiculous, Mr. Mayor?
Strike. And I think the proposal for industrial action, which I hope very much will be withdrawn. I do hope that common sense will